In the last section, we introduced a new concept, and now I want to take some time to talk a little bit more about it. And that's the concept of abstract classes. An abstract class is essentially a class that's incomplete and only partially there, or one that kind of defines the way that things should work and usually does a tiny bit of work on its own. It's a lot like an interface, except it can actually do things. Like it can have an onTriggerEnter2D method where an interface can't. It can also be serialized really easily by Unity where an interface also can't. There is, of course, one weakness or downside, and that's that you can only have one abstract class that you inherit from, unlike interfaces where you can specify a whole bunch. Now, to use our abstract class, we have to inherit from it and create another thing that is actually using it or creating an instance of it. And that's what we're doing with our key and our blaster class. And when we inherit from an abstract class, if there are any abstract methods on it, like that use method was there, then we must implement those methods as well. Now, if we also, inside of our key, perhaps, let's go to the item. Say we, inside of our key, also had this onTriggerEnter2D. Let's go back. Then this method would get called instead of the item one. It would actually use this one and never call the item one. And in fact, that could be a problem if I hadn't changed that. If I just left this right here, and I had this other version of a pickup that didn't persist, then my keys would stop persisting. So I'm going to delete that real quick, and then we'll take a look at one other thing to know about abstract classes. So here we are in the editor, and I've got my key selected, and I'm going to take my item script and drop it on, and notice I get a nice little error here saying that we can't add the script behavior item because the script can't be abstract. So that's the other limitation of abstract classes. You obviously can't assign them to a component or to be a component, and that's of course because they're incomplete. An abstract class needs to have something implementing it for it to be useful. That's the entire idea of it. If it's not in that scenario, if it doesn't need something else, doesn't need some other implementation, then it probably shouldn't be abstract. And maybe it should be abstract and you should just move that implementation around. It really depends on your scenario, but when it comes to items, things like that, I prefer to have a nice base class, an abstract base class that I can use for all of my core item logic and to be able to reference them and serialize them all very easily in Unity. So that's abstract classes for you. I've done a few videos about this on YouTube. Would go deep and talk a lot about different scenarios with them, but that's really the core of it and what you need to know. Abstract classes are partially done classes that have methods that can either be fully implemented or overridable, and a lot of the time the core use is that you're serializing or using this object in multiple places and then overriding one or more methods inside of there. A lot of the time it's just a single method, and that can be fine. That's what we've got here. All right, let's continue on to the next section, I guess, because that's all I've got and there's nothing for us to commit.